to introduce herself.
Thank you, Marissa. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. You may not recognize me because I got my hat today because I took my braids down and I want to wear a hat. So it's still me. It's still me. Just got the hat on. Okay. So if you want a hat like this, you go to Fedora Designs and get a hat with a 10% discount using my code of LIFT. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. I love it. And yes, Dr. Roche, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yes. Well, hello, Marissa. Thank you for having me on your show. My name is Dr. Roche Brown. I am also known as the Doctor of Rethinking because I help people to remix their thinking so they can make their money, they can manage their money, and they can multiply their money. I am a financial psychologist. I like to help people with money mindset and really be able to connect the two of like why you're not implementing to the practices that you need to get your money right. That is what I help people with.
I love that. I love that. And yes, we love because your money earrings, right? It's like all the branding is like on point.
You know, like a money necklace. Hey.
I love it. I love it. But yes, tonight we're going to be talking about your upcoming financial masterclass that y'all are co-hosting, specifically for Black women in toxic jobs, and just like how we heal from the financial trauma that toxic jobs often bring, right? There's so many different areas like underpayment, like paid leave being denied, which happened to me, which can put you in just a precarious financial position that you didn't even prepare for. So if you can have a plan before these things go into place, you'll be prepared right before they happen, because we know that these workplaces operate in a pattern, right? Which gives you an advantage to be able to prepare for what's to come next. I want to ask you about just the term financial trauma, how you all would define that as psychologists, and how it manifests also with Black women working in toxic job environments. Dr. O'Shea, if you want to start.
Yes. So anytime I think about trauma overall, right, I think about something that always like disrupts like how you view the world, how you view others, and how do you view yourself. Right. Anytime you experience any kind of level of trauma. And I believe that there's been people who have experienced financial trauma, and it could be from different aspects of the world. Right. Maybe you were in a relationship and a divorce caused financial trauma. Maybe it could have been something like in a family. Right. Like maybe there was somebody who passed away. And that causes a lot of financial trauma because everybody now, you know, becomes enemies. We're like, we all love each other as a family, but now everything seems so sticky only because people are being greedy and desiring more money, right? It could be those kind of things that can cause financial trauma. It could be our own money mistakes, right? We may have just not been paying attention, you know, and cause ourselves to get into debt and find ourselves in this cycle that we're unable to get ourselves out of. And that could even be a trauma. And so those are like financial situations that lead us to start to believe differently about ourselves, right? It can like attack our self-esteem, make us have a lot of shame and embarrassment around what has happened. It can cause like a lot of money avoidance, right? Like I'm going to avoid this. I don't want to like even deal with this situation. It can make us feel different about other people. Right. So it can make us feel like other people are out to attack me or to get me. It could be part of those things. Right. Just because of whatever trauma that we maybe have experienced. It gives us even like a negative view set of like the world. Right. Like the world is out to get me. You know, people are only greedy. Right. You know, different things like that. And so that's what I think of when I think of like financial trauma. It impacts our worldview. It impacts our self view, and it also impacts our view of others. But it's specifically around a financial situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dr. Kamani, anything you want to add?
Yeah, that it also is what keeps us stuck many times in a toxic job. So for me, that's what kept me at a toxic job for so long, was because I was concerned about how I was going to replace my income and having the assumption that if I left that job, then I wouldn't be able to pay my bills. There wouldn't be other ways for me to pay for things. And I had the concerns about my retirement and my health insurance. So all those fears kept me, thank you, Leslin, all those fears kept me stuck in an environment for so long. And what Dr. Roche was talking about, avoidance, that was my big issue. Like I knew I needed the money, but I was so scared to look at my money that I avoided looking at the money. But I was like, I gotta look at the money because that's what's keeping me at this toxic job. So
Yeah.
avoidance I think, is so big for many of us. Even the thought of coming to a financial masterclass is like, I don't even look at my money. Like,
Yeah.
why do
Mm-hmm.
you look at my money?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to think about it as I need to do this so that I can have a better life. I need to
Yeah.
do this so that I can get out this toxic job and do well and prepare. So you have to do that. And so the avoidance part, I'm glad we're calling it out and naming it because
Yeah.
that is
Mm-hmm.
such a big issue for so many of us. But to
Yes.
know that you have the resources and support to deal with the avoidance and you're with other people, other Black women who are also avoiding.
Yeah.
But the fact that you'll be in the master class is that you're not completely avoiding, you're getting that
Yes.
support.
Mm-hmm. Yes, as Leslie says, I don't look at it, and I don't want you looking at it. LOL. Right. That's
Yeah.
how a lot of us feel.
That's so
Yes.
true. Yeah. That's what people come to me for, right? Because
Yes.
they don't want to look at it. And because of that shame and embarrassment, right?
Yes.
Like, we'll shame ourselves, right? Before
Mhm.
anybody else will. So we
Mm-hmm.
find ourselves like mad at ourselves for like, why did I do this? What was I doing?
Yeah.
That'll keep us avoiding things, And so that's why you need somebody who's going to be, supportive throughout that process. That's why we like integrate that psychology piece, right?
Mhm.
We know how to build rapport with you. We know how to like also not judge you for whatever decision that was made that may have put you in this particular financial situation,
Yeah.
like, and so, what we know is that in order to grow, we have to do something different than we were doing
Yes.
before,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
that's the hard
Mm-hmm.
part. We
Yes.
must do something different. And even though it's scary, so even though you experience anxiety, it
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's the wrong way. It actually means that you're going the right way. Like that's
Mhm.
what happens when growth is happening. You're going to
Yep.
feel anxiety. So you kind of got to get used to like, what does that feel like? I can
Mhm.
sit in it. I know what to do to manage myself so it doesn't tear me apart. Right.
Mhm.
But you have to like, learn how to get through that process. And I think as we created the financial masterclass, we were aware, right? Where, like just, me having many clients that deal with the same thing, Dr. Kamani knowing her own personal experience, we're like, okay, we know how to just one by one, right? Get you into the right place so you can look at the numbers. It's going to
Mhm.
be okay, right?
Yes.
You can take some time to be able to understand what's happening in your finances so we can definitely get away from this toxic job.
Yeah. And I think
Mm-hmm.
another part too is that because we don't look at our money and we're not aware of financial wellness, that then we say, well, I don't want to mess things up. So I'm just going to just let it just stay where it is. I'm just going to let things grow or whatever. And just we
Mhm.
just put our head in the sand. But when you work with somebody who's an expert, like Dr. Roche, then it
Mm-hmm.
helps you. Then you feel like, wait a minute, okay, it's an easier way to look at your money. Okay. So when I was at
Mhm.
the doctor job and I took that leave of absence, I knew I needed to work with somebody because I knew I couldn't do it on my own. So then
Mhm.
that's when I started working with Dr. Roche to help me come up with that financial exit plan based upon when I plan to leave. And so, like Dr. Roche said, the financial masterclass is really structured around all the barriers that may keep us at a toxic job so we can plan and we can pivot out of that toxic job and do well. And just also so we can set ourselves up for financial wellness. Every time I go to the financial masterclass with Dr. Roche, I'm still taking notes because
Mm-hmm.
there's still stuff that I still need to
Yeah.
learn for financial wellness so that I'm in a better place. I'm in a better place than I was when I was at the toxic job, but there's still opportunities for us to learn and grow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you both touched on something because you're both licensed clinical psychologists. That gives the masterclass like a completely different angle, right? Because
Mhm.
Right.
sometimes we see like the word financial and it's like, oh, I can't do this because it's like that just
Yeah.
creates so much stress. But
Yeah.
having that like supportive, compassionate environment, and people won't be able to be on camera too. If you want to talk about
Mhm.
that, if there are issues around, you want to remain anonymous in
Mhm.
making your financial exit plan.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we are very clear that as Black women that we always have to watch our backs. We don't want people in our business. So the financial masterclass and anything that I offer that's like a masterclass or the virtual summit, it is Zoom webinar or it's webinar format so that none of the participants will be on camera. No one will know you're there. Your name will not be listed. So we really wanted to be mindful of that because of concerns of people finding out. And you will also have access to the replay as well. So whatever you don't get in the live, you'll be able to go back always and look at the replay. But the privacy is so important for us as Black women because we really have to walk in silence and many times because there's so many people who are not on our side, or they may say they're on our side, but they might stab us in the back, all that kind of stuff. So we just said, okay, how do we make this private? And so it is webinar format.
That's so important. Yeah, because a lot of these jobs are abusive environments, right? So it would be the same way of exit planning from any type of abusive relationship. Like it's to that degree. Sometimes you need an anonymous place to express your concerns, to have that support of financial exit planning. So this is like really serious stuff. So I'm glad that people won't be seen, right? And there's an option to change your name as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, I just want to emphasize what Marissa just said. So if someone wants to make a comment during the masterclass, they can change their name on the platform. So you don't have to use your real name if you don't want to, but for sure your names are not going to be listed. And when you ask the question, you're just going to be typing. You won't be on camera. So only Dr. Roche and I will be the only people on camera.
Yes.
Right. I do want to highlight a comment from Atala. Hello. Yes, I'm definitely experiencing this in waves. It makes relationships difficult as well. I do want to talk about this, like how the ripple effect. So it's not just the job, right? Your family's affected, your community's affected. A lot of us have leadership positions in our communities too. So if we're in toxic jobs, getting like the vitriol from other people, right? Sometimes that seeps out. So anything that y'all would like to share around the impact on relationships?
Yeah, well, that's a telltale about toxicity. So toxicity impacts us on so many levels because it's a poison that comes to our bodies. So if there's poison in our bodies, it's going to come out in all of our environments. So family, friends, other social events, it's a toxicity and it just pervades everywhere. So people we care about, they're also impacted because we may be interacting with them in a way that maybe is not really loving and kind, right? So we might be a little agitated, snappy. Maybe we don't have time for people. Maybe we don't want to do social events because we're so consumed with dealing with and trying to get the energy up to just show up at these toxic jobs. So we need to be mindful that the impact is not only on us, but also those who care about us. And I would say, particularly for those of us who are mothers, we have to be mindful too, because we have to think about what is the model or the example that we're setting for our kids. Are our kids seeing us go into these abusive environments? And are we telling our kids, oh, you stay in abusive situations? No. Right? So my kids were able to see mom went through this and now she's out because she will not allow for people to continue to abuse her. And so I'm glad that my sons have been able to see that by example. But it also can impact our kids.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Definitely does.
That's so important. I do want to call it a comment. Safety planning for the job.
Yes.
Right. So this is like, it goes so deep. It really goes so deep the way these job environments, right? Like harm us in so many different ways. How we have to exit plan, like similar to an abusive relationship, how to get out. Keeping things secret, right? Not being able to share stuff with coworkers because we know often in toxic work environments, people are pit against each other. Share information with like the toxic people, right? So that's very real.
But even I will say in the coworker thing, and I mentioned this because a client ended up mentioning this. Sometimes we stay because we want to be all connected to the coworkers, right? And you guys can be in toxicity and like misery loves company. So we just in this negative trauma bonding, situation. And having to recognize that these people are not, they're friends of convenience, right? Because you're going to work, right? This is not the reason to stay, to be connected to them, right? Those who are supposed to be your people will still be with you and be your friendships outside of this relationship, outside of this toxic job, right? You'll be able to still maintain those friendships if they are real friendships.
And I also want to add too, because we talked about like the parallels between an abusive relationship and an abusive job. And we also know that for many people who try to leave an abusive relationship, it takes many, many, many attempts. Okay. And so when you think about a toxic job and trying to leave that toxic job, you may have tried to leave before and it didn't work out. Right. And you're like, oh, see, I tried. It didn't work out. No. But then the Financial Masterclass will shortcut that process. It will shortcut it and it gives you the blueprint. So you may have not done well with trying to leave on your own, but now you're working with two Black women, licensed clinical psychologists. Dr. Roche is a financial psychologist. So even if it didn't work out for you last time, or you didn't know what to do, you're trying to do YouTube University, you on Google, you talking to your friends, you've done all these other things. This is a shortcut for you. It's a shortcut, it's a blueprint. So you will leave with a financial exit plan based upon when you want to leave the job.
Exactly.
That's so true. Yeah. And that's important to realize that it can be on your timeline, right? Whatever timeline that is for you, that you have agency in that. Just getting the blueprint and having the replay, if you're not even ready at this moment, but you know that you're preparing in 2025 to make your financial exit plan, to have the replay available for you, that's like invaluable, right? Already, like you said, like a jump start into what you're trying to do.
We have like different. I was just going to talk about the masterclass even more, like in the idea, like, we created, different like building blocks to get you there, So, we cover like, identifying and confronting those fears, right? We know there's an emotional barrier and emotional impact that's keeping you at this job, right? Like, so we already going to cover that area. But then, of course, some of us lack financial literacy. So we're going to add that component of making sure you just get educated around finances and working through the process of not avoiding. I know you want to do it, but don't do it. Okay. Like, we like work through that process of like how to understand your numbers, what your numbers are in order to even make that move to leave. We even cover, making sure you have a timeline. So as we're talking about timeline, some people don't even have a timeline. We just know we want to leave. Right. And some people, we need to understand, like, what do you need to do to prepare to leave in order to have that exit plan? And so we cover that, like, how do we create that financial timeline depending on what's happening at the job for you? Right. So if you're in a position that, you're having extreme mental health stress, right? Depression and anxiety and panic attacks, nosebleeds, hair, other physiological things that are happening as well, then this is what you need to do, right? We can talk about how to go about getting a lead. So we talk about those immediate steps. But then if you can like wait out a little bit longer and you got 6 months, we can tell you what we do in 6 months. We can tell you what you need to do in a year. Right. So we're giving you all of those different steps. And so even if you plan on not leaving, maybe you just want to retire early. Some people are like that, like I'm retired in 2 years, but it's still going to get you like with a set up plan of how to go about doing that, along with us giving how to replace your income, right? Dr. Kamani is going to cover, replacing your income, having multiple streams of income. So that's a big thing, that people are wondering, like, okay, well, I know what my money is now. Well, how do I replace the money? How do I get some? So we talk about those areas as well. And we make sure that we have a book. So we have the book that goes along with it. So we have a workbook that you can write all your notes in. So you have everything in one like nice little area, so you can't just forget about it. And then additionally, we have the replay, right? So you have the replay to like go back and listen if you need to. But as long as you have your notes, you can go to the section that makes sense for you in that moment, right? So those are some like great things that we have that we set up in the masterclass,
Yeah, and we also have conversations about what to do about your health insurance. Because you think about it, it's like, oh my God, no one replace my income. What about these good benefits, right?
Yes.
We talk about that, and we talk about, well, what about retirement? We talk about that too. And Dr. Roche, tell them about the bonus.
Yes. And then, of course, there's a bonus. So we love a good bonus. Why not? And the bonus is having a one-on-one with me, right? So you have your own financial psychologist that you're able to ask questions to. And because you've gone through the financial masterclass, it makes it a lot easier for you to be more informed when you ask questions, right? So we can get a lot of things done within like our 30-minute session. It may go a little bit longer just depending on what's going on, but we're able to talk about, okay, how I'm going to roll that over. Okay. Oh, I need to get some life insurance. How do I get that together? What is my survival number? This is what I came up with, but what do you think? Even if you just need some reassurance to say, I've looked at the numbers with you. You were good, right? Like you were able to, I'm giving you permission. You can leave, right? Yes. Whatever that is, we can kind of talk about that as well on your one-on-one to have an individualized plan just for you.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm just so excited about the financial masterclass. I know we've done it 2 other times before, but each time we do this, I'm excited because it just means so much to me that the woman who helped me, Dr. Roche, the woman who helped me create my financial exit plan so that I could leave, that I'm now partnering with her to help other Black women. And let me just tell you, Dr. Roche was the one who gave me the okay, like financially, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay to go, because I'm just trying to get as much money as I can. I'm still scared. I'm so scared. But I was working with her. We were looking at the numbers together, and she said, you know what? You're going to be okay. You're going to be more than okay. In fact, you're going to lose money if you go back to that job. And that was such a weight that was lifted off of me. And I think so many of us need that weight lifted, because we're already dealing with so much stress anyway. And to have someone saying to you, girl, you're going to be okay. And you're in a community with other Black women who are also walking this journey too. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
That's so important. And I do want to ask Dr. Roche about your background, because I just think that's so interesting, like merging financial like coaching with psychology, right? And just how you came into offering this as a service.
Yeah, so I've been a licensed clinical psychologist since 2006. Been doing therapy, so for a very, very long time. And what was happening, I ended up, I was working in community-based therapies, working with foster youth, and I would actually help them with finances. So it kind of started off with that, with like just teaching them independent living skills. That's actually when I first got started in the finance piece. And so like how to go shopping, right? Like how to budget. So I was doing that with them naturally. Then I got into my private practice. And while I was in my private practice, I had more adults that I was working with. And so my pretty much the industry of the field, I started off with like younger kids, 16 through 24. And then all of a sudden I had mostly like over 40 to maybe like 60-year-olds that were in my private practice. And I realized that they had like similar issues. I was like, oh, if you never learned how to budget back then, it doesn't just like pop up all of a sudden when you turn 40, right? Like it was still certain issues, but now we're older. So it's causing a different level of stress, right? So in my private practice, people were having like couples issues, it might be challenges with how both partners manage money, that's coming up. So those things were coming up in my practice. Some people, who were interested in retiring, that was coming up in practice a lot. And they're like, okay, can I do this? Should I do this? Those things were happening. And so it just started to kind of morph into me helping people with practical skills. So I was like, let's just budget during our session. Honestly, that's what happened. I was like, let's just budget. Let's look at the numbers. I mean, I don't know what they are either, right? Let's go ahead and be curious and explore together. And so I started to do that. I then ended up also like getting licensed as a life insurance agent. I started recognizing like, oh, wow, life insurance is something that particularly in the Black community, we don't understand and we don't utilize in that way. And so that got me even more like, excited. I started using it for myself. And so then I created, I had courses around finances. That's why Dr. Kamani was in that particular course. And I was like, I can put these together because people are experiencing a lot of anxiety because they don't know what to do with their finances. And so that's what like led me into like, I'm doing financial psychology. And I actually started honestly to like it more than just only focusing on the mental health stuff, right? I was like, I don't want to just be in your trauma. Let's visit it for a quick second and let's get out, right? And so we would like figure out where the trauma is and we just jump out of that trauma versus kind of sitting in it, which is kind of part of the therapy process. And so my whole practice just moved into only financial psychology. So if people don't have a financial concern, I don't actually even see them. Like I refer them out to someone else for mental health. Yeah.
Got it. That's such an interesting background. And like I have like one of my questions is how financial stress causes anxiety, depression, right? All of the diagnoses in the DSM. So anything that y'all want to share about that, especially being in a toxic work environment, the stress, right? The different things, being underpaid, job insecurity, wage gaps, all these things that are so very real for Black women in the workplace, and how these can contribute to mental health diagnoses.
Yeah, and I just want to add another layer that now we're dealing with post-election, and a lot of us are worried about what's this mean? Oh my God, I better just stay at this job and all that kind of stuff. So the anxiety and the stress has been increased for many of us, even though we know that being at the job is really harming us. We know that we're experiencing the dread every day going to our job. I saw someone talking about that their job is like a war zone, feeling like you're
Mhm.
always on your back. You're like hyper
Mhm.
vigilant. So you're stressed. You're stressed all day. And you
Yeah.
go into the job and you're like masking all day. So once you leave, you are completely wiped out. I was like
Yeah.
wiped out because it just took so much energy just to be fully present and to be looking
Mhm.
behind me and watching my back and watching what I say to people. And oh, it was just
Mhm.
exhausting. And when you think about all the symptoms, so it could range, like Dr. Roche said, it could be your blood pressure going up, you gaining weight, you losing weight, you can't sleep that night because you're thinking about what you should have told somebody at the job.
Mhm.
You know, you
Mhm.
stuff and all that
Yes.
stuff. You want to curse somebody out the job, but you got to stuff that in. Like, I need that.
Mm-hmm.
I need to
Yes.
pay my bills. And then you can have like very serious issues like the
Mhm.
depression and anxiety. And it can really cause you to really be a shell of yourself and not
Mhm.
really have any enjoyment in your life because you're trying to just survive every day. You're just
Yeah.
trying to survive. You're just trying to make it every day. And that's not really the life that we want us to
Mhm.
have as Black women. I think for so many of us, we've lived that life. We've been told that that's just the way it is as Black
Mhm.
women. And I think now when you see on YouTube, all of these Black women, these beautiful, brilliant Black women on YouTube are like, nope, there's another way. There is another way. And
Yeah.
it is. It really is.
Yeah. And just to add this other component around like stress and finances, so when you're at a toxic job, you need to cope.
Yeah.
So you're coping with your with whatever situation that you're in, and you're doing that, and that's causing financial stress. For
Yes.
instance, maybe you're overeating, right? So you might be finding yourself overeating, no time to even cook because you're exhausted by the time you get off of work, right? So now you're door dashing, getting all these convenient charges that's coming because of that. Maybe you have other like vices. Maybe you're drinking too much. I need a bottle of wine every night, right? Because these people stressing me out. So now that's causing another level of like, financial stress because you have to pay for that. Maybe you're smoking. That could be a part of it. Of course, retail therapy, even just out of like levels of just trying to have a break, right? We might just be on Amazon, scrolling, buying things, Dr. Kamani, and you can talk more about this, but even the appearance that
Yeah.
like comes around as well too. So all
Yeah.
these things cause like financial
Yeah.
stress because it costs
Yeah.
money to make this stuff happen.
Yeah, because you want to look good at the job. So
Yeah.
a lot of us look good. Like we just look right. We got it all together: hair, the nails, the
Yeah.
lashes, the clothes, the shoes. But many times it's a way to kind of pull ourselves together in a mask as we go into these environments. But now again, we're in more financial situations because we're
Mhm.
trying to mask so much to really hide the misery, right? So many of us are
Mhm.
dying inside, but we look beautiful. We look beautiful. And so it's important for us to look at, okay, what is going on? Pause and think, okay, what is going on? What is contributing to why I'm feeling this way? And
Mhm.
if it's a job, then saying, okay, what are the things that I need to do to prepare to leave the job and do well? And if you need the resources, we have the resources here. So don't feel
Mhm.
like you have to do everything on your own or no, the resources are here. But as Black women, we have to prioritize investing in ourselves. Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Roche, can you talk a little bit more about investing in ourselves, expenses, and the things that we spend our money on sometimes, but it's not
Mhm.
investing in ourselves?
Yeah. So when we're looking at, a financial masterclass or even coaching, right? All of us are coaches in a certain type of way. It requires an investment, right? An investment of time, but also investment of money. And why it's considered an investment versus an expense is because it's going to give us a return, right? You're going to get a return, and it's a financial return from one thing, right? Because once you understand everything, around everything that we're covering in the financial masterclass, you're like, oh my God, I've saved way more than I've ever saved. Right. So that's going to give it, right? Oh my God, I did retire and I have way more money in my retirement than I thought I was going to have. So all that's going to happen. It's going to be a financial return. But even more importantly, and I think this is what is important as being a psychologist, is the emotional gain that you're also going to get, to have peace in your life, right? To have a place that you're, in community with other people like that. Like, I'm not alone, right? So you're not overthinking. It's a reduction of all these mental health issues and symptoms that you're having. That's what an investment does. So when you make this choice to say, I'm going to invest in me, because I am the most important thing, right? My future self, invest in your future self. If you can just think about it in 5 years from now, I don't want to be in the same position that I'm in right now. Then I have to make a choice to say, I'm going to invest in me today so I can have a better tomorrow.
Yeah. And no judgment here, sis. Okay. No judgment for anybody who's, spending money on their hair and the nails
Yeah.
and the
Hey, because sometimes that
lashes
matters, right?
and the
You
clothes,
need that
right?
little boost.
Baby,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay lit. Okay. So I don't have no eyelashes, but I'm gonna have my nails and stuff done. I believe in some level of self-care, right? So it's not, it's nothing about having it done, but we don't want to do that in, if it's going to harm us and hinder us in other aspects, in other ways, right?
Right. So if you're watching this, you're like, oh, the financial masterclass sounds good to me, but I can't afford it. I invite you to think about and look at where are the other ways that you're spending your money. Can you forego something about the nails, the hair, the lashes? Can you forego some of that so that you can invest in yourself? Because the financial masterclass is an investment to make your life better. Okay.
Yeah.
The hair, the nails, all the kinds of stuff, that's a short term. That's a short-term fix to make you feel a little bit better. But it doesn't change the quality of your life. Okay. It's a temporary thing to keep it in mind. And just to highlight too, the financial masterclass, we say it's 2 days, but you can still go to work, okay? Because the financial masterclass is after your job, right? So after most of us get off work. So it's 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, and 4 p.m. Pacific time, okay? So don't feel like, oh, well, I got to go to work. I can't come to, no, you can still come to the financial masterclass. And again, as we said, there's replays available too.
Right. And it's next week. It's coming soon, January 8th and 9th.
Yes. And the deadline to register is January 7th.
Okay, yes. I do want to talk about masking, right? Because masking, like y'all mentioned, is something that we do often in toxic work environments, trying to fill the holes that are made within these environments by people saying stuff to us, undercutting us all the time, the little cuts along the way.
Throwing us under the bus, stealing our stuff, stealing our work.
Right, the harm of masking and pretending like everything's okay when, like you said, sometimes you're dying on the inside and no one can tell. So, like the benefit of being in a safe place with other Black women, led by a Black women psychologist. If y'all can speak to that, to be able to let your guard down a little bit and be like, I'm not okay, and to say that.
Yeah, and that's part of why I started my YouTube channel, was because I was masking all the time at that toxic job. And along with that, not only was I masking, I felt very much alone. I felt like I was just out here just having to deal with this by myself. And I felt like the job was trying to humiliate and silence me. So because of that, I said, okay, I'm going to get louder and I'm going to start talking on YouTube. And as I started doing that, Black women from around the world started contacting me and saying, oh my God, I'm having a similar experience. Thanks for talking about my experience. But the thing about it is that the masking was so painful because I would have to pep talk myself to even get out my car. And I would put the mask on and say, okay, it's not that bad because at least I'm getting a paycheck, right? That was the first lie I told to myself, trying to pep myself up. But walking into the job and dealing with so much BS all day, right? And looking like we're unfazed. Right? And we're doing all the things. We're home policing ourselves all day. We're checking our emails 20 times before we send it. We're doing all of these different things. But it just makes you just feel just so hollow and lost and miserable, just miserable, and sometimes feeling like I want to go off on somebody, right? Like I want to tell this how I really feel, but we got the smile on our face. And so that part is just a cumulative impact. When you think about that, doing that every day, like Groundhog's Day, like here we go again. I got to go through the same nonsense again. But when you're with other Black women who have a similar experience, you could take off the mask. You could take off the mask. You don't feel like you have to watch your back. You don't have to do those things. And it's so liberating. And it's liberating too, because in the masterclass, we talk about finances, which is heavy, right? We talk about all these things related to finances, but we also laugh and we dance and we sing. So it's not just, oh my God, it's a gloom and doom, boring.
Yeah.
No, it's actually fun. It's actually
Yeah.
fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. We do it in a fun way. I love when Dr. Kamali also always talks about self-gaslighting. So when I think about having a mask, it's not like only the mask for everybody else, but you are in some way are hiding some areas of yourself for you. Right. And I
Yes.
think a lot of us don't even know like who we are outside of this role, this title, this job,
Yeah.
And so I think that's some of the things we have to like think about. Like, let's take this mask off, right? Let's
Mhm.
envision another world where who
Yeah.
are we in the future? Do we want to be the same person that we are today? Or is there somebody else that we have not even really uncovered or are discovered? Right. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And
In who we
yeah.
are,
Yeah, and it's not like we're not just talking about like, oh, just do these things, whatever. We're showing you
Yes.
the how. The
Yes.
how is so important because people can say, oh, do this and this, but they don't tell you the how. We're telling you
Yes.
the how to
Right.
actually do this.
Yes.
I do want to talk about health insurance because I know that in me, like exit planning from a toxic job, that was one of my fears, right? Especially living in the US.
Yes.
We know that health insurance is a mess. So
Yeah.
how will this be addressed by the financial masterclass if that is someone's concern? How do I have health
Yeah.
insurance?
Usually it's one of people's like top concerns, right? Benefits.
Yeah.
When we're talking about benefits, we're talking about normally like medical or pension, right? That's like the biggest things. And so that's why we cover like the different areas of where you can actually go. There is the affordable care, so you can actually like do things there. So we kind of talk about like how to go about, getting your own health insurance. And even once we understand the numbers, right? It doesn't feel that scary to have to pay for something. Right. So we start thinking like, I don't want to pay for this out of pocket or whatever, because we're so used to our job being the person that's paying for it. But you don't even know how much they paying, you know what I mean? Like for this. And
Because
a lot of times like it's
it comes out of your check
affordable
too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's actually more affordable than not for you to go ahead and pay it. So especially when we understand like, replacing your income, we might be like, okay, you sell this one thing or whatever the case is, you didn't pay for your health insurance. It's not as bad as what you think it is, but I think that's what our initial fears are, Plus even starting a business, I mean, you can even make yourself look like you didn't make as much money. So you can be able to go ahead and get the free medical insurance. So we kind of talk about all the different areas around health insurance. So you won't have to be concerned about that.
Yeah, yeah. And I see that comment too. It's quiet as it's kept. We still pay when they pay. Yes, right. That's a trick. And we also learn about Cobra. So many people think, oh, well, if I leave, I got to get Cobra, and Cobra's so expensive. I'm like, girl, Cobra, no. Like we talk about that in the financial masterclass about why that might not be a good idea for you and what other options are available.
Yes.
That's so important. Yeah, because there are so many policy failures within the US, Cobra being one of them, right? I think they gave me a quote of like 1,500.
It's crazy. Cobra always be crazy. I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, no.
Like, how am I supposed to do that? Yeah, but
oh no.
Yeah, that's so important to know that you have options.
Yeah.
Right? You have options. I think that's like the underscore right there. Like you have options for income, you have options for health insurance, and it's just working through
retirement.
Retirement and working through those fears and realizing that doesn't mean stop, right? Something I want to ask you about too. When we feel that initial like panic, even around like the term, like I said, like finances, just seeing that. How do we move through that, right? Realize that doesn't mean stop. And just keep on the journey, like little by little, by giving ourselves like grace and compassion along the way. If there's any tips that you want to share.
Well, as I've been on this healing journey for like 2.5 years, I resigned about 2.5 years ago, but I have to periodically, because these memories keep coming up for me, and I just talk about it on YouTube. Okay, that's just therapeutic for me. I just talk about it on YouTube. But part of it too is that I have to practice self-forgiveness and self-compassion. And I have to remind myself that at the time, I made the best decision that I could at the time. And for all of us, we need to have that self-compassion because how does it benefit us to beat ourselves up? It does not, okay? It keeps us stuck. So we have to say, okay, my bad. I made some mistakes, right? So when I get on YouTube and tell you openly about my mistakes at a toxic job, I'm sometimes laughing. Like, I can't believe I did that. Like, that was ridiculous, okay? But the self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and now I'm able to release it. We need to be able to release this toxic stuff they're doing to us because we didn't do what's wrong, okay? We need to be able to release it like, no, you did what was wrong, And now I'm doing what I need to do for me. And what's that saying? You need to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So this is what the financial masterclass is. So you can get ready. So whenever you're ready to leave the toxic job, you're going to be ready. And if you've already left a job, or let's say your job is not toxic, you still need to have financial wellness. You still need that.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be supportive to you regardless if you choose to leave your job or you even love the job. Somebody asked us that before, like, what if I love my job and I still want to leave soon? Like, okay, well, we're still giving you the steps of leaving,
Yes,
and this is really the steps are of leaving. We're just saying toxic jobs, we definitely want to leave as soon as possible, right? But we're going to give you all the skills that you need. And one of the beautiful aspects of, us doing this is that the Dr. Kamani has lived it. And I think a lot of times we don't know what healing looks like unless we see somebody actually go through the healing process. Right. And I think that helps us understand, like, that anxiety is not wrong. Right. This is like a lot of it's not, it's supposed to be there. It's fine. It's valid to experience every emotion. Right. You get to feel angry. You get to feel depressed. You get to feel anxious. Like you get to feel all of them and understand how do you hold yourself and have that self-compassion as we talking about while you're experiencing every single emotion, because that's what's supposed to happen along the journey. Right. But I think a lot of times when we feel like a negative, what we consider a negative emotion, we think we're going in the wrong direction. And that's just not true. So that's why we need, like, even Marissa's, right? Like who have gone through this process, looking at the videos and say, hey, this is what's supposed to happen. If they're feeling this way, it's okay for me to feel this way. It still means that I'm going, on my right path.
Yeah. And the fear is just like an alert system, right? Like, hey, watch out. Hey, you need to get prepared. And I want to quote Glamazini. I love this quote. She said, fear is not a stop sign. It is a gate to walk through. And so Dr. Roche and I are with you as you're walking through the fear. Okay. Don't let the fear stop you, because it's going to make you just stay longer. It's going to make you avoid looking at your money or doing anything. And so again, we're here to walk with you through the fears that are normal. The fears are normal.
Speaking of fear, I want to touch on this comment here from Zane. Yes, the value is getting the psychological support behind past and future financial decisions. I want to talk about the shame of past financial decisions and feeling like we can't make a new pathway forward based on what we did in the past, and how we can begin to unlearn that and rewire our brains, right? There's always a change that you can make going forward, no matter what happened in the past. Anything that y'all want to say around that?
Yeah, I mean, so awareness is key, right? Awareness is key. So like recognizing, like, okay, this is what I've done. We've been talking about self-compassion throughout this whole thing, right? So have some compassion and self-forgiveness for whatever like mistake or what you have maybe internalized as a mistake. It may not even have been a mistake, right? I like when Dr. Kamani says, I did the best that I could with what the information and resources I had at that time. And that's the same thing that happens when it comes down to our money mistakes, right? We only know what we know. So we only did what we could do at that point. But so now we kind of look at that and say, okay, I understand that part. And then now we learn new skills, right? In order to actually change something, we need some new skill sets. And so that's why we can't do the same thing as we did before, which could have been that avoidance level. We can't do that, right? Because that's going to keep us, buried in the sand. We have to do something different in order to overcome, those feelings of shame, even, as we think about affirmation, because shame is saying I'm bad, right? And so now we have to change, no, I'm not bad. Right. Change the self-talk that you're having, and having other affirmations and mantras that we can say to ourselves to kind of grow and letting us know, I am enough. I am capable of learning a new skill. A lot of people tell me that they're not good money managers. Right. And I'm like, that's not true. It's we say things, we lie, all these lies to ourselves. But lies can only be taken over by truth, right? That's how we're able to build faith and continuously give ourselves more truth. And so that's what we're doing, is building that level of truth and not staying in whatever that lie is. And that'll kind of help you through that shame.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think there's a question about free healthcare. Was this in reference to, and let me know, Elegant 17, the Affordable Care Act? Because I think there are income limits depending on your state.
Yes.
Dr. Roche, I think you mentioned this, that will qualify you for free health plans. Healthcare plans?
Yeah, so it depends. So, a lot of times when people like leave their jobs and you kind of have to look, depending on what time of the season or how much you made that year, you may actually qualify for it to be free or very, very like low. Maybe it's only $100 a month because of whatever you're making at that time. Or maybe it's Medi-Cal Medi-Cal, sorry, that's California, right? But I don't know what it is in other places. But you might also be able to get Medi-Cal as well as an option. That's free.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to touch on a comment from Jasmine. Yes, thank you for holding space for this important conversation. I'm in a toxic job now, left my demanding previous job for another opportunity that paid more, and I deeply regret it. 0 out of 10 experience. First of all, I'm sorry. Sending virtual hugs.
Yes.
Just anything that you all would like to share around, again, self-compassion, right? Realizing that we only make the decision with the information we have at the time, like we shared tonight.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something we talk about too is it's up to you in terms of how you want to replace your income. If you want to go to a different job, if you want to create your own business, you want to have a side hustle, you have a combination of having your own business or working another job. But we also talk about the signs, the red flags to pay attention to when you are thinking about going to another job, because what we don't want to happen is exactly what happened to you. And again, I want to send hugs to you as well, that sometimes in the desperation to get out of one toxic job, we end up going to another job that could be just as bad or worse than the previous job. And then that starts making us think, oh, well, they're all like this. I might as well just stay with the devil I know than the devil I don't know. No. What this means is, okay, so maybe I made a mistake, right? I needed to get out. Or maybe we go into a job that maybe is not like our long-term job. It might be our bridge job. What job can we go to that temporarily will give us some money as we prepare to get to where we're trying to go? But having that compassion is important. And also knowing that there are some things that we can kind of look out for red flags. And there's also resources. So we can look at Indeed and Glassdoor to look at what are the evaluations or what do people say about working at these places, so we can do our own research prior to going to another toxic work environment.
Yes, I agree. Looking at, what happened, right? Just even like starting to pay attention to the journey, because of course, when you move to a new job, your thoughts are not like it's going to be toxic, right? We don't know it until it happens, right? Like all of a sudden, or maybe management change, and that's what caused the toxicity, or a new coworker came and thought they were their superior, right? Like we never know what it is, but you want to look back at like maybe some things that were themes from your previous job that felt toxic in this one, right? Like, if there's any change or any similarities, we want to look and see what those similarities are between those things. And then also, this is the biggest part that I feel like with people in toxic jobs is understanding that if you're being toxic to yourself in this environment, and what I mean by that is not having proper boundaries. That is something that you have control over, right? But you don't even notice it. Sometimes we can be inside of a job and you're like, well, they're giving me 50 clients to see, and there's no way for me to do that. But you still hit the 50. Because see, a Black woman gonna show up. Okay, that's what we gonna do, right? And we gonna work as hard as we possibly can. If they tell us 50, nobody's going, beat us. We gonna get the 50. But if it's not really, if you think about having integrity of the job, and you're like 30 is really like comfortable. It's what's possible here. Right? You having your right boundaries with yourself and saying, I'm only going to do these 30 demands versus trying to hit this 50, right? Because once I hit this 50, they're going to know it's possible and they're going to only expect that out of me.
Yes.
Right? Like, so that's boundaries with yourself. We have to take the time to say, what am I doing? If you're working from home, and this can be a difficult thing for people when they work from home, is that there feels like there's no time limit on working. Right? You feel like it's 7:00, you answering emails or checking emails or catching up on work or whatever the case is, right? Not having family time, barely having dinner or lunch or whatever the case is. Those are the things that you're doing, right? So that you have to be this is like a challenging yourself moment, right? You look at yourself in the mirror, like what could you be doing that also may be causing the toxicity? So you want to make sure you say, okay, I want to be off at this time. Just because somebody calls you at 7:00, doesn't mean you have to answer if you're off, right? I want to be very clear on that, because People think like, I can't believe they be calling me all out these hours. People say this to me all the time. I'll be like, nobody said you had to answer. You decided to answer. They be emailing me at this time. You don't have to look at your emails, right? So make sure that you set up those level of boundaries to help protect yourself, right? Make sure that you're taking the 15-minute breaks that they have to give you. Make sure you're taking your 30-minute lunch. You're like, oh, I'm working through lunch. Don't work through lunch, right? That is them worth winning. Okay. That means you need to take a break. I don't care if you actually eat, if you go out and take a walk, you get some vitamin D, you get some exercise in, whatever it is, you might need that. Even just talk to a non-work person, like, somebody else about what's going on for the day. Those are things that you have to do for yourself just to make the job not feel as bad. But another great thing that what this person just said, she my cousin, her last name Brown. But what my cousin said is that she was making extra money, making more money. And so this is a good financial piece, is when you move to a job, even if it's toxic and you're making more money, well, you have an option, right? Because now you have more money to make some different decisions, So you can say, I'm using this job temporarily, right? And you have to use them the way in which they're using you. Okay. So you say, I'm going to give them 6 months of my life. I'm going to stack this level of money first. Right. I'm going to go on a leave on their dime. Right. You know what I'm saying? So now you get a better level of pay for disability. So now you have a better position because you're making more money. So this is not the end all be all, but there are some other like gifts that are inside of you. Talents that you have that may need to be tapped into. And so there may be something else that may come out of this, and so you want to be able to look and have your eyes open to what other possibilities are there as well.
Yeah. And I have to add to that too, because that is such a good point, that for some of us, it may be difficult for us to set these boundaries. This is some of my clients, my Black women clients in therapy. It may be difficult to set the boundaries. It's because our identity in the job has become fused.
I was just going to say that.
And the job has become a source of social currency. The job has been a way to fulfill a void or voids you have in your own life. So that's when therapy is important too. So in addition to the financial masterclass, therapy also may be important, because you may have difficulty setting boundaries because you might feel something like, and I hear this so much, girl, that place is gonna fall apart without me, or they wouldn't know what to do if I wasn't there. So I gotta answer the phone. I gotta no. Okay. So yes, we show up and we show out as Black women, but what's the cost? What's the cost of that? And who is really benefiting from that? If you have a hard time setting boundaries, there's usually a story behind that. And that's why therapy is important for you.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know, Dr. Kamani, we've talked about this on my channel before, but like childhood trauma and how it's tied to toxic work environments. And even me healing from a toxic job experience, realizing like the behaviors that I was exhibiting, like poor boundaries, like all the things that we're talking about were directly linked to childhood experience.
Very much.
So that's so important. That's so important. I do want to ask about people who may feel overwhelmed by the thought of even leaving a toxic job, because we know, like you said, our identities can become enmeshed with what we do. How the financial masterclass will help ease you through that transition if it feels like I just can't do that. It's just completely overwhelming, knowing that you have support to take the small steps if you need to along the way and plan your exit on your timeline.
Well, a few things. One, and we talk about this in the financial masterclass too, is what are your options short term too, right? So if you're still at the job, what are your options to get some reprieve, okay? Because if you're being beat down every day, it's really hard to get that clarity. So if you're able to take a leave of absence, like I did, please do that, right? Please take that leave of absence. And also knowing that you leaving, it's contingent upon when you want to leave. Right? So the financial masterclass, we do something of creating that financial exit plan based upon your own timeline. So some people are like, I need to go tomorrow. Okay. And so we talk about, okay, so what's the plan for that? But knowing that it might be 6 months, it might be a year, it might be 2 years before you get the courage. My hope is that as Black women, we recognize I do want to go, but maybe I need to dip my toe in the water, right? And
Mhm.
now that I've gotten a little used to it, right? So maybe watching my videos, watching your videos, Marissa. Okay, I'm watching the videos. Okay, that helps me. I see other Black women. I see about healing. Okay, I can go a little deeper. So maybe I go to the financial masterclass. Okay, let me go a little deeper. So we can pace ourselves. And also, I would say too, for Black women who feel just stuck by fear, therapy again is so important, because as I was going through this journey, I had my Black woman therapist with me the whole time. Okay. So she was talking to me about what was keeping me at the job. She was
Mhm.
talking to me about what are your fears. She talked to me about visioning a different life for myself. And what was so beautiful about her was that she poured into me because I was so depleted at that point that I
Yeah.
couldn't even envision what my life could be like without the job. I couldn't
Mhm.
even envision it. But
Yeah.
she poured into me and she said, you know what? Because I was saying to her, God, like, why was God punishing me? Why was
Mhm.
God putting me in a situation where I'm such a good person, I'm such a good employee, my intentions are so good. Why would God be doing this to me? And she said, why don't you think of it this way? That God is rescuing you from that job. God's on a rescue mission for you to get out that place, because I see this for you. And she poured into me. She was like, I see you
Mhm.
doing all these wonderful things. That place is too
Yeah.
small for you. That place is too
Yeah.
small for you, girl. You gotta go. You gotta go, right? But I couldn't see it. And so she's pouring into
Yeah.
me, just like Dr. Roche poured into me. You have to be
Mhm.
mindful of the people who you have around you. Okay.
Yeah.
The people around you, if
Yes.
you're already scared, woo, be mindful of telling those fears to people around you who are already scared too, because then they're going to
Mhm.
start projecting their fears onto you and it keeps you there longer. So for me, I had to be very mindful of, I need to be around people who are pouring into me, who are supporting me. And I made a very difficult decision. I'm very transparent about this, but
Mhm.
I couldn't even tell my mother that I was trying to leave,
Mhm.
because when I told her the initial part, she did not like that at all. Like, she
Mhm.
just was like, "What are you doing? You leaving
Mhm.
this good government job with these good benefits and good retirement. What are
Mhm.
you doing?" And I was like, "Okay, okay, point taken. I cannot
Yeah.
talk to her about this, okay?" And I did
Mhm.
not, right? So I
Right.
started working with other people. I started getting my stuff together. I started replacing my income. And I didn't tell her until 6 months after I had resigned. So sometimes we have to make the very difficult decision with boundaries
Yeah.
about who
Mhm.
we choose to tell about what our plans are. And if we
Mhm.
notice that they are telling us to stay in an environment where we're still being harmed, or they're projecting our fears onto us, you have
Mhm.
to limit what you tell them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to add to that, like what pops to me is like where your focus goes is where energy flows, right?
True.
And it makes me think of like, if you're feeling overwhelmed, right? The
Yes.
overwhelm is probably because you're only thinking about only worst case scenarios or what will happen if I leave. And the beauty of the financial masterclass is that we are able to like build that creativity, help you have more vision, right?
Yeah.
What Dr. Kamani's, therapist was able to do is like, I see this for you. I see this for you. And what it does, like when you're in community, it builds like some type of level of confidence, and you start like, I see this for me too, right?
Yeah.
Like, you start to see it more when you're able to do that. And so sometimes you just need to take, the steps, right? So that financial masterclass may be just one level of steps to like get to the next level, right? And what happens, even just this is from like a neuroscience area of our brain, right? Once we actually, notice or find one thing, all of a sudden you'll see it everywhere, right? I
Yeah.
think it's also the social media algorithm, right? Like it's the same concept, right? Once you start to see it, all of a sudden it'll show up everywhere. So there'll be so many more signs. Just because you went to financial masterclass, then you're like,
Mhm.
oh wait, there goes another sign I should leave. Oh,
Yeah.
there goes another sign that I'm gonna be okay. Right. And
Yeah.
your brain has now shifted to
Mhm.
see all the okayness, right? Somebody's gonna come to you and say, oh, can you I don't know, be the event planner for my wedding? You're like, I do have another gift. Right. All of a sudden, it's like you're gonna start noticing there goes that other point of like, I'm going to be okay. You know, and that's what we're doing is like, this is just a step to get your energy to start to see all the possibilities that are available for you, right? That you're not only stuck in this one area. It's not this narrow way of thinking, but you can be more expansive because now you've been exposed to something so much more, you know?
Yeah. And the law of attraction. So once you stop doing this, right? Like, I can't leave. I got to fight these people. Once you say, okay, what? I surrender. I believe in God. I surrender, God, right? Lead me in the direction you want me to go. But I surrender and I'm open. And that's when all these opportunities start coming my way. I was like, what? Like, where do these things come from? But guess what? They weren't happening when I was at the toxic job, because I was so busy trying to fight these fools, right? All my energy was going to fight these people. So I was like, wait a minute. Okay, no, I'm walking away. I'm doing my own thing. I'm taking my power back. But when I open my hands up, so many things start coming my way. And I see a comment in the chat about, I'm a single mom with little saved and scared to leave. I just want to just honor what you're saying and let you know that the Financial Masterclass is for all Black women. It doesn't matter if you're single, if you're married, if you're widowed, if you are a college graduate, if you're not, if you have it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your background is. It does not matter. The Financial Masterclass is for all Black women. It is for financial wellness for all of us. So don't kind of count yourself out because of it. And again, what we're talking about, we're here to support all Black women.
Absolutely. I do want to touch on community before we wrap up, and just like speaking to the gift that it is, right? Because me coming across Dr. Kambani's channel on YouTube gave me the information to be like, oh, I'm in a toxic job, because I had absolutely no idea what was happening, right? So to be able to connect those dots, and then Dr. Roche pouring into you, coaching you through like your financial exit plan. So just anything that y'all want to share around like the impact of community, especially as Black women, when we share resources with each other, knowledge, understanding, lived experience, how much farther we can get versus trying to do it on our own.
Oh yeah, community is so healing. It is so healing. Number one, you know that you're not alone. So that's the one thing that I think a lot of us experience shame about what we're going through, because we say, wait a minute, why is this happening to me? Or I must be weak, or why can't I fight, or why can't I, right? But when you're with other Black women who are able to say, this is happening to me too, then you say, wait a minute, it's not just me. That's number one. The second thing is what Dr. Roche talked about, and Marissa, I know you talk about this too, about the self-gaslighting. When you are in a community with other Black women who've had similar experiences, you are able to reality test about what you're going through and say, wait a minute, that was them. They're gaslighting me. And now I've internalized that, and I'm starting to, the toxicity is starting to act out in terms of how I'm thinking about myself and how I think about the world and how I think about my future, right? The third thing is that you're in a community with other Black women who are sharing resources with you, and sharing resources with you in a way that we are rooting for you. We want the best for you. We are like hyped up for you. Like on my YouTube channel, when I have Black women come in the chat, like, I resigned, I'm about to fire, I did my ex. I'm like, girl, yes, right? Even if I don't know you, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited because, again, I'm a Black woman who was in a toxic job, didn't know what the world was going on, had to find ways to survive and how to get out and do all those other things. And because I knew how horrible that was, how much it almost broke me, right? But because I knew how horrible it is, I was like, you know what? I want to help liberate other Black women. And I get such joy from that. Just being a community with other Black women, uplifting each other, pouring into each other, and not tearing each other down, uplifting each other, and knowing that we do have so many options. And that's what I want Black women to know, is that you might feel stuck, but you're not. You're not, okay? Even watching this video, that's an example of you moving forward, okay? You come to the Financial Masterclass, that's you moving forward. You might feel like you're not making these steps, but you are, and you are in community with other Black women who are rooting along with you and sharing resources with you, because we want you to win, because we know if you win, we all win. We all win. Yes.
We do. And yeah, just
But I say, go ahead, Dr. Kamani, but I'm gonna add that little component. Yeah, I just felt like it was like a preacher. That was one of those Harriet moments. Okay, that was a Harriet moment that just like came through. But I want to say this, that we take on the pace of those that are around us, right? And so as you talk about community, we take on the pace of those that are around us. And so I always use this example so people can understand it better. If we think about physically, when you're actually going out walking, right? You're walking with somebody, and you'll notice, like, if that person is at a faster pace, you'll be trying to hurry up and get with them, right? You know what I mean? Your legs be hurting because you're trying to like be on the same pace as that person. But if somebody is slower, right? And it could be just like maybe they're unhealthy or maybe they're older, and you'll start to unconsciously, meaning out of our awareness, take on their pace, right? And you'll just start walking slower without even noticing it. If you start doing that physically, you have to imagine, what do you do spiritually? What do you do, like, mentally? What do you do emotionally, depending on who's around you? So like, if we think about that level of community, as we're talking about, if you're in the community of only other toxic workers, right, then you're in a space that you're going to take on their pace. Yeah. Oh, at least we get a check. That's what we do, right? Yeah. Oh, I can't stand this job because of this, can't stand this job. And you only just talk in that kind of conversation because you're around only people who talk like that. Yeah. The financial masterclass gives you an opportunity, just in case you don't have friends or family or other people that are not in toxic jobs, because somebody could be in a different toxic job, not even yours. But you're in a position that everybody's so toxic that they'll make you stay at your job too. Yeah. Right? Because that's the only community that you're in, But if you change your community, right, you can change and be in financial masterclass, other women who are trying to be free. Yeah. Now it opens your mind to think about, how do I become free, right? And it's going to change your pace, right? Your legs might be hurting, right? But you're going in the right direction, right? Because you're going to move faster because you now have all the tools you need in order to move.
Yeah. And once you start exit planning, your peace of mind is so, it's just, it's miraculous what it does. So if you're still working at a job, but you know that you're making steps in silence to get out, oh my God, it's amazing.
They don't even bother you no more. You be like, who you talking to? I can leave today, right? You be in a different position.
That just reminded me, like, I have my exit date in front of me, right? So even if it shifts along the way, even if you have to stay like a month to get your finances straight, right? At least you have like a date set on the calendar, something that you're working towards, so that it doesn't feel like you're here for the rest of your life. Sometimes it can feel like that. And that can lead again to feelings of depression, right? Despair, like this is the only thing I'll ever do. So being able to zoom out, right? Set your vision, like you said, express your creativity again. Because these work environments, these toxic work environments, can just drain every bit of vitality, like creativity that we have. So any chance that you can get to tap back into your vision, your dreams, is just so powerful. Absolutely.
It really
I do want to ask, as we're wrapping up, just the time, the logistics of the masterclass coming up, 2 days. Just anything that you'd like to share around why people should attend.
Yeah, like we said, it's next week, January 8th and 9th, and it's going to be at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, and 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So we have 2 full days, well, not full days, an hour and a half each day. That's going to happen, where, Dr. Kamani will take 45 minutes. I'll take the other 45 minutes. We'll, of course, give opportunity for question and answer and some engagement if that's necessary as well. We have the fun time for dancing and stuff too, right? So we give you a little time to transition from your job. We have your transition period as well. But it will be January 8th and 9th, and we'll cover everything that you need, literally from A to Z, to leave that job and have your finances straight, okay?
Yes. So you may come in feeling like defeated, feeling doubtful, feeling scared, all those things. You will leave the financial masterclass feeling like you have a plan, feeling like you're on track, feeling like there's a way to walk through the fear, okay? The fear's still going to be there, okay? But you will feel and you will know, you have that sense of confidence that you're walking through this with other Black women, and you will have information that will really empower you to make the next moves, to pivot and pivot out well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm testimony to that you can leave a toxic job and you can live a life that's so much better. When I tell you that I have never dreaded one day of my life since resigning from that job, but before I used to dread every day waking up. Now I'm not talking about the Sunday scaries. I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
every day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's no longer my life. And so knowing that there's a way, it's in hand's reach. Okay. But you just have to reach for it. Okay. You have to invest in yourself and you have to reach for it. And you can also gift a Black woman. So if there's a Black woman that you know who can benefit from the financial masterclass, you can gift her too. Your mama, your sister, your friend, your cousin, you can gift her too. Same process, click the link and you can gift another Black woman as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yes. And just speaking to like what's possible, I just did a video on my channel, I think on Tuesday, of different wins I've had, right? Different things that I've been able to participate in, workshops, using, again, my existing skill set. One of the things being in a toxic work environment, we often feel like we don't have skills anymore, right? So being able to remind yourself that you are skilled, everything that you've done along the way still counts. Even if they can't see it in this work environment, that's okay. They're still within you. So being able to tap back within that and realize that once you're able to exit that, make your exit plan on your timeline, right? But being able to exit that and realize that all this creativity and inspiration comes back to you, all the skill sets that you've gained along the way, they're still there. That's powerful, right? And that's the power of exiting an environment that's zapping every bit of energy out of you. You deserve so much better than that. So,
yes, you do.
Absolutely.
You deserve the world.
You deserve the world.
Oh, and let me just emphasize again, reminder, everyone. So we talked about all the gems you're going to get at the Financial Masterclass. Again, privacy consideration. No participants will be seen on camera. Your name will not be listed. If you have a question or comment that you want to make, you can change your name in the platform, okay? So Dr. Roche and I will be the only people who are on camera.
Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. But yes, taking inspiration from Dr. Kamani, if there's a Black woman watching right now who is still scared, right, to come to the masterclass, they feel like maybe this is something I need to take part in, but that fear is kind of stopping them from taking the next step. What would you say to that person watching?
I would say to her, the fear is real, and I understand the fear. And knowing that you have to walk through the fear with people who can help you walk through the fear so that you get out of an environment that's harming you. You have to move forward movement, because if you stay in that environment, it's only going to get worse. Real talk.
Yeah. I mean, I just said, you deserve the world. And I think that it's important for us to just increase our level of like worth, like knowing that we're worthy of more, so if you're in a place that is toxic, you have to recognize that there is like there's something on the other side of that, and so it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel afraid, right? Like we're doing it afraid. Right. We're walking with it afraid. We all are experiences of doing things afraid, but yet and still like there's something on the other side that you have not even discovered yet. Right. And so that's why we want to go ahead and get there, because we know it's better. You thrive right on the other side, thrive in 2025. Okay. Your year to thrive. So make sure that you go ahead and walk in, start the year off right. With even just getting your finances together, even if you're not leaving this year, imagine January, right? Like the two major concerns people always care about is losing weight and getting their money right. You can go ahead and get your money right. I don't know about the losing weight part. I'm getting my life together on that end too. But at least you'll go ahead and get your money right, and it can carry you through the whole year. So you can just have an amazing 2025.
Yeah. Get your financial house in order. Okay. You can get in order by coming to the masterclass. And again, knowing that there is a life that is so much better for you. It really is. I know it might be hard for you to believe, especially when you're in a situation where you're hurting right now, but know that we are here to walk with you. We're here to support you. We're here to provide the resources for you. But again, you have to take that step. You have to register. And we hope that you come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to thank y'all so much for being here, for sharing everything that you shared with us tonight. I want to thank everyone in the chat for contributing your information and knowledge as always. And yes, y'all, please register for the 2-day financial masterclass live January 8th and 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Again, replays will be made available. No participants will be on camera. You'll have the option to change your name. So yes, please register. All right, y'all. I want to thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
Until
you,
next time.
Marissa.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.